The book of Jubilees, chapters 28 and 29. Chapter 28 goes over Laban beguiled Jacob with Leah to be his first wife as opposed to Rachel. Rachel and Leah are twins, so were Leah's sons Zebulun and daughter Dinah. Jacob leaves with the spotted speckled and black sheep to his father's house. Jacob's sheep were stronger than Laban's feeble sheep. With the precepts and witnesses, which goes into a little bit more detail, the King James Version Bible, Genesis chapter 30, and the book of Asher, chapters 31. The format I have selected to bring this story to you are the witness books, King James Version Bible, and the book of Asher, which will follow the book of Jubilees version. Each witness and precept story will shed more detail in different angles. With that being said, let's get into the story. Book of Jubilees, chapter 28. And he, Jacob, went on his journey and came to the land of the east to Laban, the brother of Rebekah, and he was with him and served him for Rachel his daughter 1 week. And in the first year of the 3rd week, 21:22 a.m. and on Monday, he said unto him, Give me my wife, for whom I have served thee 7 years. And Laban said unto Jacob, I will give thee thy wife. And Laban made a feast and took Leah his elder daughter and gave her to Jacob as a wife, and gave her Zilpah his handmaid for an handmaid. And Jacob did not know, for he thought that she was Rachel. And he went in unto her, and behold, she was Leah. And Jacob was angry with Laban, and said unto him, Why hast thou dealt thus with me? Did not I serve thee for Rachel, and not for Leah? Why hast thou wronged me? Take thy daughter, and I will go, for thou hast done evil to me. For Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah, for Leah's eyes were weak, but her form was very handsome. But Rachel had beautiful eyes and a beautiful and very handsome form. And Laban said unto Jacob, It is not so done in our country to give the youngest before the elder. And it is not right to do this, for thus it is ordained and written in the heavenly tablets, that no one should give his younger daughter before the elder. But the elder one gives first, and after her the younger. And man who does so, they set down guilt against him in heaven, and none is righteous that does this thing, for this deed is evil before mighty God Ahiah. And command thou the children of Israel that do not this thing, let them neither take nor give the younger before they have given the elder, for it is very wicked. And Laban said unto Jacob, Let the 7 days of the feast of this one pass by, and I shall give thee Rachel, that thou mayest serve me another 7 years, that thou mayest pasture my sheep, as thou did in the former week. And on the day when the 7 days of the feast of Leah had passed, Laban gave Rachel to Jacob, and he might serve him another 7 years. And he gave to Rachel Bilhah, the sister of Zilpah, as a handmaid. They both were twins, 2 sets of twins. And he served yet another 7 years of Rachel, for Leah had been given to him for nothing. And Elohi Ahiah opened the womb of Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob a son, and called his name Reuben, on the 14th day of the 9th month in the first year of the 3rd week, 21:22 a.m. But the womb of Rachel was closed, for mighty God Ahiah saw that Leah was hated, and Rachel loved. And again Jacob went in unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob a second son, and called his name Simeon. And on the 21st of the 10th month, and in the 3rd year of this week, 21:24 a.m. and on Monday. And again Jacob went in unto Leah, and she conceived and bare him a third son, and called his name Levi, in the new moon on the 1st month in the 6th year of this week, 21:27 a.m. And again Jacob went in unto her, and she conceived and bare him a fourth son, and called his name Judah, on the 15th of the 3rd month in the 1st year of the 4th week, 21:29 a.m. And on account of all this Rachel envied Leah, for she did not bear. And she said to Jacob, Give me children. And Jacob said, Have I withheld from thee the fruit of thy womb? Have I forsaken thee? And when Rachel saw that Leah had borne 4 sons to Jacob, Reuben and Simeon and Levi and Judah, and she said unto him, Go in unto Bilhah my handmaid, and she will conceive and bear a son unto me. And she gave him Bilhah her handmaid to wife. And he went in unto her, and she conceived and bare him a son, and called his name Dan, on the 9th of the 6th month in the 6th year of the 3rd week, 21:27 a.m. And Jacob went in unto Bela a second time, and she conceived and bare Jacob another son. And Rachel called his name Naphtali, on the 5th of the 7th month, in the 2nd year of the 4th week, 21:30 a.m. And when Leah saw that she had become sterile and did not bear, she envied Rachel, and she also gave her handmaid Zilpah to Jacob to wife. And she conceived and bare a son, and Leah called his name Gad, on the 12th of the 8th month of the 3rd year of the 4th week, 21:31 a.m. And he went in again unto her, and she conceived and bare him a second son, and Leah called his name Asher, on the 2nd of the 11th month in the 5th year of the 4th 22 week, 21:33 a.m. And Jacob went in unto Leah, and she conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Issachar, on the 4th of the 5th month in the 4th year of the 4th week, 21:32 a.m. And she gave him to a nurse. And Jacob went in again unto her, and she conceived and bare 2 children, a son and a daughter. And she called the name of the son Zebulun, and the name of the daughter Dinah. In the 7th of the 7th month, in the 6th year of the 4th week, 21:34 a.m. And Ahiah, mighty God, was gracious to Rachel, and opened her womb, and she conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Joseph, on the new moon, on the 4th month, in the 6th year, in the 4th week, 21:34 a.m. And in the days when Joseph was born, Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wives and sons, and let me go to my father Isaac, and let me make me an house. For I have completed the years in which I have served thee for thy 2 daughters, and I will go to the house of my father. And Laban said to Jacob, Tarry with me for thy wages, and pasture my flock for me again, and take thy wages. And they agreed with one another that he should give him as his wages those of the lambs and kids which were born black and spotted and white. These were to be wages. And all the sheep brought forth spotted and speckled and black, variously marked. And they brought forth again lambs like themselves, and all that were spotted were Jacob's, and those which were not were Laban's. And Jacob's possessions multiplied exceedingly, and he possessed oxen and sheep and asses and camels and men servants and maidservants. And Laban and his sons envied Jacob, and Laban took back his sheep from him, and he observed him with evil intent. And the precept to this story is in the King James Version Bible, Genesis chapter 30, the continuation of Leah having sons by Jacob. Genesis chapter 30. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and she said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I mighty God, stead, who had withheld thee from thee thy fruit of thy womb? And she said, Behold, my maid Bela, go unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. And she gave him Bela, her handmaid, to wife. And Jacob went into her, and Bela conceived and bare Jacob a son. And Rachel said, Elohim Ahiah had judged me, and had also heard my voice, and had given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan. And Bela, Rachel's maid, conceived again, and bare Jacob a second son. And Rachel said, With great wrestling have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son. And Leah said, A troop cometh, and she called his name Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a second son. And Leah said, Happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, and found mandrakes in the field, and brought them into his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, Is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband, and wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, Thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. And Elohim Ahiah hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived and bare Jacob the 5th son. And Leah said, Elohim Ahiah had given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again and bare Jacob the sixth son. And Leah said to Elohi, Ahiah had endured me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. And afterwards she bare a daughter, and called her name Dinah, twins. And mighty God Ahiah remembered Rachel, and mighty God Ahiah hearkened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived and bare a son, and said, mighty God Ahiah had taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, and said, mighty God Ahiah should add to me another son. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, send me away, that I may go unto mine own place, and to my country. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, and let me go, for thou knowest my service which I have done thee. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry, for I have learned by experience that mighty God Ahiah had blessed me for thy sake. And he said, appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. And he said unto him, thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. For it was little which thou hadst before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude. And mighty God Ahiah had blessed thee since my coming. And now when shall I provide for my own house also? And he said, what shall I give thee? And Jacob said, thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep thy flock. I will pass through all thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come for my hire before thy face, every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, behold, I would it might be according to thy word. And he removed that day the he-goats that were ring-shaped and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in him, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hands of his sons. And he set 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob, and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flock. And Jacob took him rods of green poplar, and of the hazel and chestnut tree, and peeled white strakes in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters, in the watering troughs, when the flock came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle ring-shaped, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks toward the ringstrakes, and all the brown in the flocks of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not into Laban's cattle. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in. So the feeble were Laban's, and the stronger were Jacob's. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maidservants, and menservants, and camels, and asses. And a precept and witness to this story is in the book of Asher, chapter 31, a descriptive details of how Jacob was deceived by Laban by distinguishing all the lights in the house for Leah. And we're going to back it up a little bit, going back to when Jacob thought he was marrying the sister of Leah, Rachel. And in the 7th year, Jacob's service, which he served Laban, was completed. And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for the days of my service are fulfilled. And Laban did so, and Laban and Jacob assembled all the people of that place, that they made a feast. And in the evening Laban came to the house, and afterward Jacob came there with the people of the feast. And Laban extinguished all the lights that were there in the house. And Jacob said unto Laban, wherefore thou do this thing unto us? And Laban answered, such is our custom to act in this land. And afterward Laban took his daughter Leah, and he brought her to Jacob. And he came to her, and Jacob did not know that she was Leah. And Laban gave his daughter Leah his maid Zilpah for a handmaid. And all the people at the feast knew what Laban had done to Jacob, but they did not tell the thing to Jacob. And all the neighbors came that night to Jacob's house, and they ate and drank and rejoiced, and played before Leah upon timbrels and with dances, and they responded before Jacob, He Leah, he Leah. And Jacob heard the words, but did not understand their meaning, but he thought such might be their custom in this land. And the neighbors spoke these words before Jacob during the night, and all the lights that were in the house Laban had that night extinguished. And in the morning, when daylight appeared, Jacob turned to his wife, and he saw, and behold, it was Leah that had been lying in his bosom. And Jacob said, Behold, now I know what the neighbors said last night. He Leah, they said, and I knew it not. And Jacob called unto Laban and said unto him, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Surely I served thee for Rachel, and why didst thou deceive me, and didst give me Leah? And Laban answered Jacob, saying, Not so, it is done in our place to give the younger before the elder. Now therefore, if thou desirest to take her sister likewise, take her unto thee for the service which thou wilt serve me for another 7 years. And Jacob did so, and he also took Rachel for a wife, and he served Laban 7 years more. And Jacob also came to Rachel, and when Elohim saw that Leah was hated, Ahiah opened her womb, and she conceived and bare Jacob 4 sons in those days. And these are their names, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, and she afterward left barren. And at that time Rachel was barren, and she had no offspring, and Rachel envied her sister Leah. And when Rachel saw that she bare no children to Jacob, she took her handmaid Bilhah, and she bare Jacob 2 sons, Dan and Naphtali. And when Leah saw that she had left barren, she also took her handmaid Zilpah, and she gave her to Jacob for a wife. And Jacob also came unto Zilpah, and she also bare Jacob 2 sons, Gad and Asher. And Leah again conceived, and bare Jacob in those days 2 sons and 1 daughter, and these are their names, Issachar, Zebulun, and their sister Dinah. And Rachel was still barren in those days, and Rachel prayed upon Elohim at that time, and she said, O Elohim, remember me and visit me, I beseech thee, for now my husband will cast me off, for I have borne him no children. Now, O mighty God Ahiah, hear my supplication before thee, and see my affliction, and give me children like one of the handmaids, that I may no more bear my reproach. And Elohim heard her, and opened her womb, and Rachel conceived and bare a son. And she said, Mighty God Ahiah has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, May mighty God Ahiah add to me another son. And Jacob was 91 years old when she bare him. And at that time Jacob's mother Rebekah sent her nurse Deborah, the daughter of Uz, and 2 of Isaac's servants unto Jacob. And they came to Jacob to Haran, and they said unto him, Rebekah has sent us to thee, that thou shalt return to thy father's house to the land of Canaan. And Jacob hearkened unto them in this which his mother had spoken. And at that time the other 7 years which Jacob served Laban for Rachel were completed, and it was at the end of 14 years that he had dwelt in Haran, that Jacob said unto Laban, Give me my wives, and send me away, that I may go to my land. For behold, my mother did send unto me from the land of Canaan, that I should return to my father's house. And Laban said unto him, Not so, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thy sight, do not leave me. Appoint me thy wages, and I will give them, and remain with me. And Jacob said unto him, This is what thou shalt give me for my wages, that I shall this day pass through all thy flock, and take away from them every lamb that is speckled and spotted, and such as are brown amongst the sheep, and amongst the goats. And if thou wilt do this thing for me, I will return and feed thy flock, and keep them as at first. And Laban did so, and Laban removed from his flock all that Jacob had said, and gave them to him. And Jacob placed all that he had removed from Laban's flock in the hands of his sons, and Jacob was feeding the remainder of Laban's flock. And when the servants of Isaac which he had sent unto Jacob saw that Jacob would not then return with them to the land of Canaan to his father, they then went away from him, and they returned home to the land of Canaan. And Deborah remained with Jacob in Haran, and she did not return with the servants of Isaac to the land of Canaan. And Deborah resided with Jacob's wives and children in Haran. And Jacob served Laban 6 years longer, and when the sheep brought forth, Jacob removed from them such as were speckled and spotted, as he had determined with Laban. And Jacob did so at Laban's for 6 years, and the man increased abundantly, and he had cattle and maidservants and men servants and camels and asses. And Jacob had 200 drove of cattle, and had cattle were of large size and of beautiful appearance, and were very productive. And all the families of the sons of men desired to get some of the cattle of Jacob, for they were exceedingly prosperous. And many of the sons of men came to procure some of Jacob's flock, and Jacob gave them as sheep for a manservant or a maidservant, or for an ass or camel, or whatever Jacob desired from them they gave him. And Jacob obtained riches and honor and possessions by means of these transactions with the sons of men, and the children of Laban envied him on of this honor. And in the course of time he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father he has acquired all this glory. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban and of his children, and behold, it was not toward him in those days as it had been before. And Elohim appeared to Jacob at the expiration of the 6 years, and said unto him, Arise, go forth out of this land, and return to the land of thy birthplace, and I will be with thee. And Jacob rose up at that time, and he mounted his children and wives and all belonging to him upon camels, and he went forth to go to the land of Canaan, to his father's Isaac's house. Now we're getting into the book of Jubilees, chapter 29. Laban became jealous of Jacob's success and begged Jacob to stay for his success, enslaved Jacob, keeping tried to shear his sheep. Witness to the chapter is in Genesis chapter 31 and the book of Asher chapter 32 verses 37 through 55. So let's get into the book of Jubilees chapter 29. And it came to pass when Rachel had borne Joseph that Laban went to shear his sheep, for they were distant from him a 3 days' journey. And Jacob saw that Laban was going to shear Gazah's cut off stress, his sheep. And Jacob called Leah and Rachel, and spake kindly unto them, that they should come with him to the land of Canaan. For he told them how he had seen everything in a dream, even all that he had spoken unto him, that he should return to his father's house. And they said, To every place whither thou goest, we will go with thee. And the witness to that is in Genesis chapter 31, the King James Version. And Jacob blessed mighty God Ahiah of Isaac his father, and the Elohim of Abraham his father. And he arose and mounted his wives and his children, and took all his possessions, and crossed the river, and came to the land of Gilead. And Jacob hid his intention from Laban, and told him not. And in the 7th year of the 4th week, Jacob turned his face toward Gilead in the 1st month, on the 21st thereof, 21:35 a.m. And Laban pursued after him, and overtook Jacob in the mountain of Gilead in the 3rd month, on the 13th thereof. And Elohim did not suffer him to injure Jacob, for he appeared to him in a dream by night. And Laban spake to Jacob, and on the 15th of those days Jacob made a feast for Laban and for all who came with him. And Jacob swore to Laban that day, and Laban also to Jacob, that neither should cross the mountain of Gilead to the other with evil purpose. And he made there a heap for a witness, wherefore the name of that place is called the heap of witness, after this heap. But before they used to call the land of Gilead the land of Rephaim, for it was the land of the Rephaim, and the Rephaim were born their giants, whose height was 10.98 down to 7 cubits. And their habitation was from the land of the children of Ammon and to Mount Hermon, and the seats of their kingdom were Karnaim and Ashtaroth and Edrei and Mishua and Beon. The witness to that is in the book of Asher, chapter 32, verses 37 through 55, listed below. And Elohim destroyed them because of the evil of their deeds, for they were very malignant, and the Amorites dwelt in their stead, wicked and sinful, and there is no people today which was wrought to the full all their sins, and they have no longer length of life on the earth. And Jacob sent away Laban, and he departed into Mesopotamia, the land of the east, and Jacob returned to the land of Gilead. And he passed over to Jabbok in the 9th month on the 11th thereof. And on the day Esau his brother came to him, and he was reconciled to him, and departed from him unto the land of Seir. But Jacob dwelt in tents. And in the first year of the 5th week, in this Jubilee, 21:36 a.m., he crossed the Jordan and dwelt beyond the Jordan, and he pastured his sheep from the sea of the heap unto Bethshan, and unto Dodan, and unto the forest of Carabim. And he sent to his father Isaac of all his substance, clothing and food and meat and drink, and milk and butter and cheese, and some dates of the valley. And to his mother Rebekah also 4 times a year, between the times of the months between plowing and reaping, and between autumn and the rain season, and between winter and spring, to the tower of Abraham. For Isaac had returned from the well of the oath, and gone up to the tower of his father Abraham, and he dwelt there apart from his son Esau. For in the days when Jacob went to Mesopotamia, Esau took to himself a wife, Mahaliah, the daughter of Ishmael, and he gathered together all the flocks of his father and his wives, and went up and dwelt on Mount Seir, and left Isaac his father at the well of the oath alone. And Isaac went up from the well of the oath, and dwelt in the tower of Abraham his father on the mountains of Hebron. And thither Jacob sent all that he did send to his father and his mother from time to time, all they needed, and they blessed Jacob with all their heart and with all their soul. And the witness to that is in the book of Jubilees, chapter 29 above. Let's get into the book of Asher, chapter 32, verses 37 to 55. Get into more detail, into depth. The story, when I say witnesses, that means these different books are telling the same story. One goes into more depth than the other. So the book of Asher, chapter 32, verses 37 to 55. And Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban and of his children, and behold, it was not toward him in those days as it had been before. And Elohim appeared to Jacob at the expiration of the 6 years, and said unto him, Arise, go forth out of this land, and return to the land of thy birthplace, and I will be with thee. And Jacob rose up at that time, and he mounted his children and wives, and all belonging to him, upon camels, and he went forth to go to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. And Laban did not know that Jacob had gone forth from him, and Laban had been that day sheep shearing. And Rachel stole her father's images, and she took them, and she concealed them upon the camel upon which she sat. And she went on. And this is the manner of the images: in taking a man who is the firstborn, and slaying him, and taking the hair off his head, and taking salt, and salting the head, on anointing it in oil, and then taking a small tablet of copper or a tablet of gold, and writing the name upon it, and placing the tablet under his tongue, and taking the head with the tablet under the tongue, and putting it in the house, and lighting up lights before it, and bowing down to it. That's idol worship, it which is forbidding. And at the time when they bowed down to it, it speaketh to them in all matters that day, that they ask of it through the power of the name which it is written in. And some make them in the figures of men, of gold, silver, and go to them in times known to them. And the figures receive the influence of the stars, and tell them future things. And in this manner were the images Rachel stole from her father. And Rachel stole these images, which were her father's, in order that Laban might not know through them where Jacob had gone. And Laban came home, and he asked concerning Jacob and his household, and he was not to be found. And Laban sought his images to know where Jacob had gone, and could not find them. And he went to some other images, and he inquired of them, and they told him that Jacob had fled from him to his fathers to the land of Canaan. And Laban then rose up, and he took his brothers and all his servants, and he went forth and pursued Jacob, and he overtook him in Mount Gilead. And Laban said unto Jacob, What is this thou hast done to me to flee and deceive me? And he led my daughters, and lead my daughters and their children as captives taken by the sword. And thou did not suffer me to kiss them and send them away with joy, and thou didst steal my gods and didst go away. And Jacob answered Laban, saying, Because I was afraid lest thou wouldst take thy daughters by force from me, and now with whomever thou findest thy gods he shall die. And Laban searched for the images, and he examined in all Jacob's tent and furniture, but could not find them. And Laban said unto Jacob, We will make a covenant together, and it shall be a testimony between me and thee, if thou shalt afflict my daughters, or shalt take other wives besides my daughters, even El Elohei shall be a witness between me and thee in this matter. And they took stones and made a heap, and Laban said, This heap is a witness between me and thee. Therefore he called the name thereof Gilead. And Jacob and Laban offered sacrifice upon the mount, and they ate there by the heap, and they tarried in the mount all night. And Laban rose up early in the morning, and he wept with his daughters, and he kissed them, and he returned unto his place. And he hastened and sent off his son Beor, who was 17 years old, with Abikaroth, the son of Uz, the son of Nahor, and with them were 10 men. And they hastened and went and passed on the road before Jacob, and they came by another road to the land of Seir. And we're going to stop at that. We'll get into chapter 30 tomorrow. Thank you for listening.